Us.
Oh, there's your mic. So once it's on the slide, press it once more, and then it should start with the next click. The arrow key. Yep. Right.
Hi, my name is Laura Young. I'm a
In Uganda for 2 years.
Nice. I just came back from a trip there like a week ago.
Oh, really?
And we were training some teachers. Yeah, anyways. That's awesome. Where were you teaching at? Acacia or Heritage?
No, Heritage.
Nice.
Yeah, we loved it.
Did you come through Teach Fit?
Nope.
I just know that that's one of the schools we can send people to.
Oh,
so
okay. We were there on missions like with the church here, like dozens of times, and then we had no contracts, no kids yet. We're like, yeah, let's go. So we did one. Yep. It was a ton of fun.
My name is Maggie.
Are you related to formerly Bethany Dueck?
I am not, but Teach Beyond is. Okay, so now this one.
So that's a YouTube video.
That's the other one, and
Yeah.
it's posted on YouTube.
That one I might have.
Somebody told me that it was whoever I was supposed to send myself to a long time ago said it's gonna work, or we checked it and it worked. So it is in the other presentation. I don't know if that helps.
Tried and then it glitched out.
It's not what I expected.
The whole world is in desperate need of faith, hope, and
I'll just start going through the slides.
Then I think that's.
You're gonna fit this all in like 30-ish minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Either that or I'm deleting some of it. It's the like
It's not my job to manage you, but you know.
It looks like a lot of slides for a lot of. Well, they're like 2-minute videos, so it's not a long. Okay, so who clicks? You're clicking. You and I need to be friends. I should introduce myself. I'm Amanda. Nice to meet you and thank you. So I just tell you to like next slide or whatever.
Yeah.
I stare at you.
Yeah, give me a look or something. I'll figure it out.
Do something.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, did you get your USB stick back? Did I give that back?
You did not.
Okay, so
Thanks for remembering about that. Thank you for
now you're good for audio then?
going
Yeah, I'm
through
good.
changes.
Yeah.
La 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 la. Okay.
Alright, then I'm gonna go check out the other rooms now. So yep. Good to go.
Fantastic. There should be like a different slide at the beginning though.
Is there?
It says, oh no, more just the that'd be great. Okay. Awesome. So this is your church? This is like
Yeah.
home and native stomping ground for.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna turn the lights on before I go. 18 years old, something like that.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You spent time in the youth room and then everywhere else.
Oh, I've done youth. Yeah.
Has the church been here, like on this location, for a long time?
No, we've had 2004. I think.
Oh, but for a while.
We've had two or three. Like maybe in 2002 when they started developing it.
Oh, cool.
And then there's campuses which they started in like 2012 or so. So we have 3 locations in the city.
That get like what, like video feed, or have totally
Yeah.
different pastors and like.
I think
live
individual campus, but usually the message is streamed. So
Okay, so their own worship, their own like all that other stuff, and then life groups and all
yeah,
that.
and then we have a Niverville campus as well outside the city. So.
Nice.
And a sister church in Morristown. So.
Okay.
It's busy.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Great.
Mood lighting.
It's a pretty cool youth room. I was youth pastor for a couple years after I got my teaching degree. Before I actually taught, my home church said, "Can you come back and be our youth pastor?" I did not have this cool little youth room. We had to go upstairs to get to the youth room, but like.
It's a pretty good youth room.
This is.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet. But you probably have a couple hundred youth. 100 youth?
We have 2 separate ones. Like we have a junior youth, like middle school.
Yeah.
And high school. And I
just
got
talk.
it all.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you for doing that.
Hi there. Welcome to this session. I'm a teacher. Can I be a missionary too? My name is Dana Rogalski, and I'll be your host. Before I introduce our presenter, I want you to know that this session is being live streamed on our YouTube channel. Please also know that your image may appear on the live stream broadcast. And if you don't absorb all the content in this session, or if you'd like to see any of the other sessions you may have missed, you can go to our YouTube channel and find them there. Also, may I ask you to silence your phones or put them on mute, please, as a kindness. So Amanda Cameron, who is our presenter today, is the recruiting coordinator and a mobilization coach for Teach Beyond. She has a BA in Christian Ministry from Briarcrest College and a Bachelor's of Education from Crandall University. Amanda and her family lived in Nigeria for 4 years, where she taught middle school Bible at an international Christian school. Now, as a mobilization coach in Hamilton, Ontario, Amanda loves connecting with teachers who are passionate about teaching and interested in serving overseas. Please give Amanda a big Mission Fest Manitoba welcome.
Well, good afternoon and welcome. I'm glad that you have come here, and I'm going to do things a little bit more in teacher style because I am a teacher, you've heard, and so I want interaction and conversation as well, because that's what I do as a teacher. So definitely feel free to share and to answer questions and to interact with me throughout. As you heard, I am a mobilization coach and recruiting coordinator with Teach Beyond, but I'm also a teacher, trained as a teacher. And so, I've had some neat opportunities to teach in Ontario and then also in Nigeria. And so one of the things I like to do when I start, because I'm usually in a classroom full of people then who become my students, people I don't know, is I'd love to take a moment to get to know you. So very quickly, since we won't have time to go all the way around the room, I'm just going to get you to tell me your name. I'll absorb as many of them as I can. So you're just going to shout out your name, and I'll absorb, and we'll see how we do. And then we'll do a second activity after that. So on the count of 3, you're just going to tell me first name, because I'm not going to remember last names, and just kind of like shout it out or speak it out all at the same time. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Awesome, nice to meet you. Okay, the second thing we're going to do is we're going to play a little game. And our little game involves standing up if. So that way I get to kind of know you and where you're at. So, stand up if you ate breakfast this morning. Oh, good, you started your day off right. Awesome, have a seat. Stand up if you traveled on a bus to get here. Oh, okay, very nice. Stand up if you have a bachelor's degree or have done some kind of post-secondary degree of some sort. Okay, nice. Okay, awesome. And stand up if you're a teacher or have been or, yep. Oh, or aspiring, yep, we can do that too. You want to be a teacher. There we go, we add some others in there. Awesome. And one more. The last one is stand up if you have lived outside of Manitoba. Could be still in Canada or could be somewhere around the world. And those from Regina then, or from Saskatchewan, yeah, you count too. Okay, fantastic. That just lets me get to know you a little bit. So thank you, I appreciate that. I want to talk a little bit about the idea of I'm a teacher, can I be a missionary too? And so I want to start off first by defining what is missions. Because if we're going to say, well, can I be a missionary? Well, then what's a missionary? So what is missions? And so that's my first question. You can go on to the next slide. So let's define it together. And one of the activities, again, as a teacher, I want you to take a moment to think about the question I'm asking. Then I want you to pair up with the person beside you. And in a moment, I will then ask you to talk to that person about your definition, okay? So it's called think, pair, share. So you're going to think about your answer, you're going to pair up with a person, and then you're going to share with that person. So what is the definition of missions? If we're talking about a missionary, what is missions? So think about your answer. Take a moment. How would you define missions? Someone's asking you dictionary definition. What would you say? All right, turn to someone, the partner of pairing together, someone beside you that you can talk to. If you need to make a group of 3, that's okay. And talk to that person and tell them, what is your definition of missions? You're the dictionary now. What's your definition of mission? So feel free, talk out loud. This is your time. I will ask for a few answers after you've discussed as a group. You can find someone in the back if you want. All right, I'll give you another 30 seconds. What is missions? All right, 3, 2, 1, and stop. All right, I'm going to take a few, hopefully you got to hear from each person in your pair, and I would love maybe 3 answers kind of from the audience. What is missions? How are we going to define it? You maybe want to give me your partner's definition. Who wants to? You can raise your hand or you can kind of shout out, what is missions? Yes? Okay, intentionally going to share the gospel with people who are unreached. Nice. Another definition? What did you guys talk about in your pair? What is missions? What's the definition? Go ahead. Yeah, we pretty much agree? Okay. So if I go to the dictionary, and the Oxford Dictionary says, it defines it 2 different ways. The first definition was, missions is an important assignment carried out for political, religious, or commercial purposes, typically involving travel. So like a trade mission to Mexico or a certain country or something, okay? The second definition that the Oxford Dictionary put was this: the vocation or calling of a religious organization, especially a Christian one, to go out into the world and spread its faith. So interesting, the Oxford Dictionary actually has Christian as part of the definition of missions. So going on a Christian mission. So a vocation or calling from a religious organization, so like a Christian calling, to go into the world and spread its faith. Is that the definition that we kind of came up with? Yeah, that was pretty much exactly what we said. So let's give some examples. What would be an example of missions that you could go and do? Like church planting or inner city missions, okay? You're here at Mission Fest. Did you see anything out in the tables out there? Okay, teaching English could be a way to do missions. Bible translation could be missions. Bible camps can be missions. Anything else?
Working with like refugees or immigrants.
Sure, refugee work, immigrant work, that can all be missions and stuff as well. So now relating to my idea of, sorry, this is clicking and I don't want to annoy you guys, of teaching and being a missionary. Is my classroom, when I'm in my middle school class, is that a mission field? Am I doing missions when I'm there as a teacher? How come none of you said, well, you said teaching English, but what about teaching technology or science, or what about teaching in a school in Manitoba here? None of you said that was being a mission, or that was doing missions. Is teaching a mission field? Right. Whatever you do, do it with all your might as doing it unto the Lord. So the Great Commission, that's the next slide here, right? Yep. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. If we think of the Great Commission as that idea of going and missions, what does that look like? How do we make disciples? Do you have ideas of what that could look like? What does making disciples mean, or going? Going, do we have to go to another country? Sometimes. But can I also go to my classroom in whatever school, here in Manitoba? Sorry, I don't know schools because I'm not from here, so I can't give those examples. Okay, what does making disciples look like? Some people said inner city mission. Some people said, what was some of the other, what did you say? Yeah, Bible translation. Can you go and make disciples in that? Sure. What does that look like in a classroom to go and make disciples? just some things for you to think about. Does it involve getting to know kids? One of the schools that I taught at, their mission statement, so the Christian school in Nigeria, their mission statement was educating global disciples of Christ. So as a school, they were taking that as their mission was to fulfill the Great Commission, to make global disciples of Christ. And so, as a Christian school, they were filling the Great Commission. You can go to the next slide. So if education as missions, I want to tell you briefly my story. When I was 14, I met a missionary kid whose parents were with MAF, and he was attending the Christian school in Kenya. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Maybe someday, I've always wanted to be a teacher, maybe someday I can go and teach at a school in Africa. Like, wouldn't that be so much fun? That was my dream, that was my thought. Then life happened, and I got my degree, and I finished my schooling, and I got married, raised my family, and kind of let go of my dream. Not sure how that was ever going to happen. Okay, God, this is just maybe something that, okay, well, I met someone at 14 and thought that was cool, and, carried on with life. And then in 2018, God opened the door for my husband and I to move to Nigeria. We'd been teaching in Ontario, and we said, hey, maybe we should do some international work. Let's go explore some options. And so God opened the door for us to teach in Jos, Nigeria, at an international Christian school there. And if you would have asked me at the time, well, are you a missionary? I said, no, I'm a teacher. I'm not a missionary. I'm going to go and teach. And I had never really thought about being a missionary. But the mission of the school was making global disciples for Christ. So was I doing missions? Yes, I was. And so seeing our definition of missions, then, what was it again? Do you remember what you said? I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm putting you on the spot. But if we say being part of, as a Christian, to go out into the world and spread the gospel or spread the faith to people who either know or don't know, but continue to grow in the faith, if that's what missions is, then education can be the same thing, right? That classroom in Ontario was also my mission field. My classroom in Nigeria was also my mission field. And so God was calling me to be part of missions globally, and I also got to do that when I was staying in Canada. I have some quotes, or a quote from missionaries from a different organization, and they said, "Be encouraged. Teaching is a great way to reach people because you're meeting their physical and emotional needs as well as their spiritual ones. We wouldn't trade it for anything." And so if we think of the importance of, you can go to the next slide, if you think of the importance of Christ-centered education and weaving the story of the gospel into everything that you are teaching, then yes, I am a missionary, right? I am able to share the gospel because I'm weaving God's story into my math curriculum and into my science curriculum and into my Bible class. And so I'm able to help grow disciples of Christ. The next thing I want to show you is a video, a story from the field. And this is a story from Ukarumpa Christian School in Papua New Guinea. And I just want you to it's like about 2 minutes long, and I just want you to see the impact and see how the classroom can be a mission field and what that looks like from the perspective of the teacher and also then from what the students got to experience as well. You can go ahead and play that. Maybe. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Laura Young. I'm a teacher and now administrator in Papua New Guinea. I moved there in 2013 where I taught first and second grade for 8 years and have been the principal now for 2 years. As a teacher at Ukarumpa International School, I have a twofold ministry. Anywhere you're teaching in the world, you have a ministry with the students that you have. But at Ukarumpa International School, I'm also supporting the Ministry of Bible Translation.
My name is Sharon Bowers, and I am the school director at Ukarumpa International School in Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea is an island in the South Pacific. It's home to 9 million people, but those 9 million people speak more than 800 of the world's languages, making PNG the most linguistically complex country in the world. Approximately 240 New Testaments have been translated in Papua New Guinea, and work is still being done in approximately 200 languages, but several hundred language groups are still in need of Bible translation. Ukarumpa International School was established more than 50 years ago to support the work, particularly of Bible translation in Papua New Guinea. While the school currently serves some national children and some children of other missions, the largest population of students is children of missionaries working to translate the Bible and those whose jobs are to support that effort.
Each parent who is working in Papua New Guinea is doing something vital for the work of Bible translation. The parents of these students have important work to do, and they can't homeschool them. By teaching missionary kids, I'm freeing their parents up to do the important work of Bible translation.
Many parents have told us that if it weren't for Ukarumpa International School, they would not be able to serve in Papua New Guinea. We're so remote and there just really are not a lot of educational options. So it's very important for Ukarumpa International School to provide an opportunity for quality, accredited education for the children of missionaries.
One really special story that comes to my mind is about 2 years ago, I was teaching a Bible lesson about Jesus being the final sacrifice that is needed. And my students were wondering, why weren't we still sacrificing animals like they did in the temple in the Old Testament? And through their questions, they came to realize that Jesus was the final sacrifice needed for salvation. That day in my classroom, several of the kids in my class who are missionary kids came to know the Lord as their Savior. They had grown up in a Christian home, they had been on the mission field with their parents for many years, but in my classroom I had the privilege of leading them to the Lord. And that was really affirming for me, and the Lord really blessed me in that way, because I know I'm there to support the work of Bible translation, but I also have an awesome ministry of transforming my students' lives. I'm excited about the way Teach Beyond is coming alongside us to provide an education for missionary kids whose parents are doing the important work of Bible translation.
So I love that story. Missionary kids who would probably know, have attended church many times, they know about Jesus, and yet this teacher had an opportunity to share the story and these students become believers. Was her classroom a mission field? Yes. Absolutely, right? And so I think it's kind of neat when you can see, yes, I thought maybe I'm going over to Nigeria, I'm just going to be a teacher, I'm not going to be a missionary. But yes, I am, because I'm going to a classroom and I'm doing what God's called me to do there and share my faith and help and encourage others. So educating global disciples for Christ. I do have a second video just that's going to look slightly different with what missions can look like in an educational setting. And this one is about a school in the Ukraine, and we all know what's happening there. And so this is a recent story of some work that's been happening there. And so if you can just do the next one, that'd be great.
My name is Maggie. I'm the founder of New Generation Christian School in Kyiv, Ukraine. We want to develop leaders who can go out and make change in Ukrainian society. And we understand that to do that, we need to give them a biblical worldview so they can think about the world the way God sees it. On February 24th, we all woke up about 5 o'clock in the morning to explosions happening around the city. And we didn't know what was happening at first, and we didn't know what to do, because there wasn't an understanding of what was going on. Most of our families left Kyiv in the first few days of the war, and our family decided to leave the evening of the first day. We didn't know where we were going to go, but we got in the car and drove west. And as we were driving, I thought about our community at New Generation and thought how we could help everyone else who didn't know where to go either. We stayed at Word of Life in Poland for several weeks. And as soon as we got there, we realized that, okay, we're here, we have a place to stay, but it's temporary, and we're going to need to move on. So we started to look for a more permanent location for all of these families to go. We have friends in Czech Republic in a small town called Novopaka. When they heard about our situation, they said, come to us in Novopaka, Czechia. We have a Christian school here. And our church has recently purchased an old hotel. We're renovating it for Ukrainians to live. We would like it to be you. Our group made the decision to move down to the Czech Republic. And in the middle of March, we moved all 80 people from our school community to this new community in Czech Republic. and we started to help everyone get settled. It was a very stressful, very hard time for all of us. We came to a new country where we didn't know the language, and our housing didn't have anything in it. We found apartments for everyone, but we needed to furnish them. And eventually we had a group of more than 100 people living together. The church in the Czech Republic was amazing. They stopped their lives for at least a month to help us regain ours. And we're very grateful to them. During that time, we also had many people reach out to us from other organizations, including Teach Beyond, and so many people wanted to help. And the church was letting us use their old building, but it only had 3 rooms in it. So we were trying to fit 8 grades into 3 rooms, and it was a little better than organized chaos. So the pastor of the church in Czech Republic met with a factory owner he knew, and this factory owner said, "I have an empty administrative building. You can use it for the rest of the year for free." And I remember the day when we walked into the factory building and we looked around, and it was old and hadn't been used in several years, and the spiders were very happily making nests there. And we thought, okay, let's make this work. And with the help of so many people who cared about us, in 1 week we had that place ready for a school. We moved in a week, and we started classes again, and our kids were able to finish the school year, unlike most other Ukrainian kids who had to leave everything for the rest of their school year. I'm very thankful that we were together as a community because we were able to help each other emotionally through that time. Everyone was struggling with the same questions, with the same feelings, and we were able to be a support to each other. One emotion that I think we all felt immediately as we left the country was just being overwhelmed with the kindness and goodness of the people who stepped out to help us. There was so many terrible things happening behind us, and in front of us we were greeted with this overwhelming goodness, and it was such a stark reminder of good and evil, I think, when you see so much evil happening right in front of your eyes, and at the same time God's people stepping up to fight that evil with good. Throughout everything that we've experienced in the last year, it has been such an encouragement to be part of the body of Christ. So many people have come alongside us from the church, from other organizations, individuals, and we thank God for all of you who have cared about us during this time.
So in this scenario, education looked different, or they had a different story, but they were using education as the way to draw that community together. The people in Czech Republic then using okay, we have a building, okay, we can support your community, and education then being the focus for that work to make disciples and to encourage those people who have suffered greatly. And so one of our comments is about the teacher impact. And so I hope that a couple of these videos have showed the impact that teachers can have. So teachers impact lives and cultures through education every day. Our vision at Teach Beyond specifically is to go beyond. We're integrating faith and learning in the simple yet profound belief that through the power of God's Holy Spirit, lives and cultures will be transformed into Christ's image. And so Teach Beyond, just briefly, as an organization, we are a global community providing transformational education. That's our motto, transformational education services, as part of God's ongoing mission to transform individuals and communities into all that He intends. And so transformational education, kind of that idea of a ripple effect. If we're making an impact or seeing our classroom and the individuals in our classes as just people we can be our mission field and we can disciple them, then they're having an impact in their families to then go home and into their communities, to their neighborhoods, and gradually to the country, right? So the ripple effect just continues and grows bigger. We're going to skip the video. So zoom over one more. Yes, that's transformational education. Transformational education, Christ-centered education. The Holy Spirit transforms us as individuals so that we can have an impact on those that He calls us to work with. And education is the way we do that. Sometimes it's an overtly Christian school, and sometimes it's just through living out our faith in our everyday lives. The map that I have Next shows just we work in a whole bunch of different areas. We have various roles specifically at Teach Beyond with hundreds of openings every year. We are certainly looking for qualified teachers, experienced teachers, but also educators can be those who want to be involved in non-serving, non-teaching roles. Serving in non-teaching roles, such as administrators, residence life, counselors, maintenance, anything it takes to run a school. We have various settings through Teach Beyond. We have members that are in international schools, in bilingual schools, TESOL or TEFL, English camps, English learning centers as well. We're in about 70 locations around the world, Latin America, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. And we have opportunities for like full-time work, and then short-term, 6 months or less, and then some part-time roles, and then some remote work that you can stay in North America and do as well. The last slide, I think. Yep, if you are curious about serving with Teach Beyond, you'd like to learn more about how you can fulfill, if you're feeling God's call into missions and using teaching as the gift that God's given you to spread the gospel, and you'd like to learn more, the best way to get connected, you can scan the QR code if you'd like, and when a member of our team, probably me, will end up getting in touch with you. We do have a lot of people in the US as well, but I'm kind of our representative here in Canada. And and you can learn more, or else you can come. We have a booth out there as well, and so I'd be happy to chat with you and give you some more information on Teach Beyond and on my experiences. I'd love to hear how you feel God is calling you and to what your mission, your teaching mission field could look like as well. I think, the last slide is just about Teach Beyond. I think I'm close on my minutes. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, you can, or you can meet with me after to discuss like specific opportunities. But yeah, I hope that I've given you a little chance to see that education can be a way to serve in missions. Maybe you didn't think, if you're getting your teaching degree, you didn't think that, I'm a missionary too, but you really are, whether you're serving in Canada or whether you would like to be involved overseas. So I don't know if you have any questions, but thank you for your time and your attention. And thank you for letting me be part of this.
Thank you so much. It was a really good presentation on how to amalgamate teaching with a mission mindset. I like that a lot. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. So this is the end of this session, and I want to thank you for joining us. If there is something that you'd like prayer for, maybe you want to discern more from God what His call on your life is, perhaps it's teaching and mission or something else, you can go to the Freedom in Christ ministry table, which is just outside the sanctuary, and they will pray for you. So the next session is in 15 minutes. You're welcome to stay, or you can come back.
Breakfast ministry with another guy. Oh, sorry. Rob is like, oh my goodness, you're outside the city and you're charging this ministry in Winnipeg. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, he's a good guy.
I haven't seen too many youth rooms with fencing.
We cage them in.
Thank you for doing slides and everything.
I have questions for you. I'll come find you after.
Okay, will you? Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's on.
Yeah. If you do it, can you mute it? The wrap. Can you mute the wrap? Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Just in case I pass gas. There's too many stories.
I'll come stop by in a minute or two, but you can punch him though because you're so mad. Do it. I'll hold him. You can tell he wanted to. Wanted to wind it up. Oh, I'm so mad. Can I just finish this game when I went to get them? Can I just finish? I'm like, oh, I haven't heard that for years, but it never ends through the generations. Can I just finish this game?
Nope, just starting. Well, 9 minutes or so. So like a previous session. It was, yeah, a teaching one. When did it go to? 5 minutes ago.
That's not. Who did you go through? Or did you go through an organization?
Nobody.
You just went?
Yeah, no, we checked out that school years before.
Okay.
Like, oh, whatever. If you ever went there, wherever you go.
Yeah.
We get contacts. Hey, positions that are of what we do. So like, we got no contracts. So it's a good Christmas spot.
Lorraine said we
You go
had
to, like,
such a
the big-
blessing to her this week.
Yeah. And like there's
That
You go
surprised
ahead.
me because I go,
It's Christmas.
if you didn't want to do it, you didn't.
Why sign up?
Why'd you volunteer?
Yeah.
I wonder if Lorraine's gracious attitude makes them feel like they can blow it off. Because like she said to me a few times, whatever you want to do, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
you know.
It's kind of like an Easter almost. On the weekend and whatever, do dinner for them.
Okay. Tells me that you are serving,
Guys,
so
thank
thank
you.
you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And hopefully you have not crashed and burned.
I have not yet. I have never had an accident.
I hear that. So, I used
I
to
saw
be
you
a firefighter.
Oh, fun.
Firefighter, paramedic.
Did you work on an airfield or did you work somewhere else?
I worked residential in a bush.
Okay, very good.
So I shouldn't have said that to you because it does jinx. People come in, and they say, "Hey, you guys have a slow night, sleep all night." Thank you.
No, I'm not.
Calls all night.
Air traffic controllers are early 40s, so I haven't actually done it. You can't if you walk in the tourist list and the guy's 50, you should go, oh, wow. That's not good.
From what I understand, it is rather stressful.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you get, for some people don't quite understand it, but you get a little, you're not as, let's put it this way, you're not as brave when you're 50 as you were when you were 20. And you need to be have a little bit of courage with you. I would imagine the same thing with the firefighters. You need a little bit of courage.
A little bit. Too much will hurt you, though.
Yes, too much hurts you, but not enough causes a lot of problems.
We had a house fire, and the temperature was about 25 below zero. We put out. Now this was in the States where I was doing this, but we put out about 400 feet of hose, 6-inch hose, big heavy hose, and it was very cold. And so, as long as you kept water running through it, you were fine. But when they first arrived, somebody said that there may possibly be a child. That makes it crazy.
Yeah.
So they broke protocols, they entered, should not have, because it wouldn't have made a difference at that point. You don't try to save somebody.
Yeah.
So it was tough, they got ringed out, but you can't blame them for either.
No, exactly.
I showed your wife, my uncle was an air traffic controller.
Oh, fun.
And he was in the Korean War. And he took his benefits, became a dentist.
Ah, that's a change.
Yeah, became a dentist, and so then he married Miss New York. And he re-enlisted into the reserves, the naval reserves from the Air Force.
Hi there, welcome to the last breakout session of the day. It's entitled, What Does Marketplace Ministry Look Like? I'm your host, Dana Rogalski. Before I introduce our presenter, I want you to know that this session is being live streamed on our YouTube channel. Please know that your image may appear on the live stream broadcast. If you don't absorb all the content in this session, or if you'd like to see any of the other sessions you may have missed, the video of each session will be available after Mission Fest is over on our YouTube channel. And for the sake of our presenter and to be kind, would you please put your phones on mute or silent? Our presenter is Frank Rowe of Cross World Canada. He is the Director of Mobilization for Cross World Canada. He and his wife Tammy have been missionaries for 45 years, focusing on mobilization, training, teaching, and leadership training. He also teaches yearly overseas and is a fire department chaplain. Please give a warm mission manifest. Mission Manifest, the last session. Mission Fest Manitoba welcome to Frank.
That's okay. Nobody noticed. It's not on tape. It won't be on YouTube forever. I'm glad to see all of you. It's a privilege to be here. I've been, as was mentioned, my wife and I have been missionaries for 45 years. We did not start when we were 7. So it's kind of a stretch, and God's been very, very good to us. I've actually been in ministry. This September will be 50 years of ministry. I started working in a church youth department as a counselor when I was 17. I was in college, and so they had the opportunity, and so I took that opportunity, so I've been at it since I was 17. Let's see, 17 plus 50 equals, 45. I want you to know that being a missionary is kind of like being an entrepreneur. If you're here in this session, this session has a leaning towards the topic of business as mission, BAM. And I want you to know that being a missionary is a lot like being an entrepreneur. I'm going to go through my business resume here with you for just a moment so that you can see a little bit about what I've done and how you can see how this all works together. I've been directly involved in 15 businesses over these 45 years. 6 of them were startups. 9 of them were partnerships. I quit or took a new position 4 times. I had business that faded into the midst 4 times. I've run 4 sideline businesses. I've worked as a consultant, a mentor 4 times. I've worked with 5 really great people. I've worked with 5 really not so great people. I've gone back to school 7 times. I have a doctorate in theology. Sought legal assistance once. Fired or run out of business 5 times. Changed locations 6 times. Had major equipment purchases 8 times. Trained associates over 12 times. Worked with over 50 different investors. Fought strong competitors 7 times. That does not include the devil. Been audited on my taxes 5 times. Been fired or run out of business 5 times. Now that sounds like a pretty healthy business resume, doesn't it? It sounds like what you would expect from somebody who, had some type of business. And being a missionary really is running your own business. It's a challenge. You have to have that eye towards the future. You have to understand what you're doing. But as a believer, number 1, you have to trust God. Because if you don't trust God, then everything collapses within upon itself. So that's what it is. Now, let's see if this works. There you go. That's my wife and I when we first got started in missions. This was our first prayer card in 1978. Look at that. We were children. All right? By the way, my wife, she still looks just exactly the same, or pretty close to it anyway. I do a lot of traveling. I do a whole lot of traveling. I cover all of Canada, plus last year I taught in 4 schools, 3 of which were overseas, and so I do a whole lot of traveling. This is our ministry. I'm the director of mobilization. This is the only commercial that I'll give, okay? So you got to put up with this little bit, but I'm the director of mobilization. That red dot is supposed to be someplace else. That's moved. I'm supposed to be down here. That's Quebec. I'm not in Quebec. So that's enough. Okay, Crossworld. Crossworld's been around since 1931. We were started by the missionary C.T. Studd. And today, we used to be called Unevangelized Field Mission, but we changed our name about 20 years ago. And so today we're Crossworld to represent a little bit better about what we do. And we do work with all professions, almost all professions. There's some, I'm not going to hire you. I'm not going to bring you on as a missionary if you're a bartender, but all professions. And we're in every continent except for New Zealand, Antarctica, and what's that other one? Oh, Australia. And so we're happy to have you in just about anything that you want to do. Okay, enough commercial. This is the Hubble telescope, and this is one of the pictures that was taken from the Hubble telescope. And you see and you look at this, and you and I, we go out into the fields, or we go out in the woods or whatever, and we look up and we see the clear sky and it's beautiful, and we see all those stars. You can't see them here in the city because of the lights, but you see all those stars and you go, oh my, look at how many there are. Oh my, look at how many there really are. And God gives each and every one of us as a believer the opportunity to do things. And sometimes we have to take something like a Hubble telescope to get a little bit better idea. So the question may not be as far-fetched of what does workplace missions look like as we may originally think that it is. We've used marketplace ministries forever. It wasn't until the 300s that churches became built as churches. This place would have never existed. And even a small church, they ran on house churches. And the house churches held 50 to 75 people, a relatively small amount of people. But the way that people were reached at that time was through their businesses, through their daily transactions with the people at the market, the people that they walked to on the street, the people that they talked to. And so that's how relationships were built, and that's how the gospel was spread, person to person to person during that time period. So you had that ministry being used to reach people during that time. And as time has progressed, we've continued to do that. Because as time has progressed, that building of relationships makes for business, but it also makes for sharing our faith. And so, because there were no churches, because there were no Bible studies, because there were no outreaches, because there were no revival meetings, no camps, no conferences, they had to reach people one-on-one. How are you? You doing okay? You having a good day? I'm Frank. Your name? Good to meet you, Jack. And that's how it started. And people would talk, and people would share their faith with one another, just as a part of their daily lives. In fact, when Jesus says, "Go you into all the world," that little word, that little phrase right there, "go," we think of it as meaning go. But it literally means as you are going, just through life, just as you live. Share what God has given to you. And so that's what they were facing. So throughout time, this is an interesting picture. I love finding it. The gospel has always been spread by testimony, conversation, and discussion. Just sitting and talking with people. Now, let's be honest. Today that can be difficult. I was on a plane the other day flying here and sat next to a very nice lady, seemed to be relatively affluent. And so we talked, and I asked her what she did, and she told me, and I went, "Really? That's what you do?" Now, this is on tape, so I can't tell you what she did. It wasn't bad. It just surprised me what she did. And so we talked and everything. She asked me what I did. And I said, "Well, I work for a religious nonprofit." See, I try to avoid the missionary term because when you say that, then people go, "Oh, really? Well, have a nice day." And then they don't want to talk to you any further. And so we talked for a little bit and everything. And I forget how it came up, but I asked her a question, and she answered me. And she answered me in such a way that was not at all Christian. And so I asked her, I said, "Are you very religious? Are you very spiritual?" She said, "No, I have family members that are, but I'm not." And so in today's society, you have to be careful, right? And so I was being careful. But 2 hours earlier to that, I was seated in the airport there in Toronto, and I sat down across from a lady to eat lunch. There were no seats available. She said I could sit there across from her. And you know, we talked about the gospel for an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. It was remarkable. And God just opened that door. And so we take those opportunities to talk and to share the gospel. And that's what we do in our regular daily lives as we do this. Now, this is an interesting statistic because we talk about the spread of the gospel during the first century. You recognize this probably. This is the Roman army, or at least a drawing, a piece of artwork on the Roman army. How much of the Roman army do you think by the year 100 were believers? Well, the answer is somewhere between 10 and 15% of the Roman army by the end of the first century were believers. How did they become believers? They became believers, again, by word of mouth, by sharing what God had done for them, what had done for someone. I'll get it right here. Marketplace ministry has already been used. Can somebody tell me who this is? Anybody recognize who this is? Okay, this is Carey. This is the one that we say is the father of modern missions. And what's interesting about Carey is that he went as a missionary to India. But do you know how he financed his ministry? He bought tea plantations, tea farms, where they don't make tea, but they grow tea. And that's how he financed his entire ministry. So by doing something like that, he was able to expand his ministry and do other things. That's what a tea farm looks like. I've been in Africa and seen those like that, and it's just incredible. It's just beautiful. Paul himself, we say, was a tent maker. And we use tent making as an opportunity to help explain what marketplace missions is. But it's actually a little bit different because tent making is to do a job to help you to pay and allow you to be there. Whereas marketplace ministry is to do a job to give you the opportunity to share the gospel. So there's a difference there. As a marketplace missionary, you're not there necessarily to make money. You're there to share the gospel, just like any other missionary. You're just using marketplace ministry as that opportunity, as that change. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is one in the Philippines of a market. It's actually a wet market. So what is the goal? What is the dream or desire or result that you're working towards in marketplace ministry? You're a business person. You've got a business type of mind. You want to run a business or you want to be a part of a business. But what is your goal? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish through that? Well, the answer, another good one, that's Chicago, is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse number 31. So whether you eat or drink, whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Your business, your work, is not something that exists for you to receive the glory. It's for God to receive the glory. And as a result of that, it should be used for that purpose. You're not there, like I said a few moments ago, for you specifically to make money. You're there to spread the gospel. And you can make money, but it all has to be done for God's glory. So there is a purpose to it. So you're here for a purpose. Right there. That's where we are. Your button doesn't always button. Thank you. So what can you do? What can you do? How do you begin? Where do you begin? Well, the answer to that one is to reach people groups that are unreached. Now, as missionaries, we've been on this theme, and it's probably a theme that we've heard in other seminars or in the main sessions. It's probably something that we've heard in the past. But I want to introduce you to a different concept of those who have not heard. You see, these are the 11, I was going to say 10, but New York City is 11, so I had to put that one in there. But these are the 10, 11 largest cities in the world today. Now you look at these cities, these are huge. The size of these places are just unbelievable. I think that Winnipeg is about 70,000. Or I'm sorry, 700,000. I get that right. It's just a zero. I did that on my taxes one time. I left out a number on my income, and I kept wondering, why is it that I'm not getting any deductions, I'm not getting this? And then, you know how when you push send, and then a minute later you realize that, that's what I did. I went, oh no. So I called the income tax people, and they said, well, you have to wait till well, anyway, the CRA was actually really, really nice. Here. The CRA was actually very, very nice, and I appreciated their help. Put that one on camera. You look at the size of these cities. Now, several of these cities are in places where it's difficult for us to go. But most of these cities are in places where we as missionaries can go. And people say, well, yeah, but Tokyo has the gospel. The gospel is there in so many ways. That's true. The gospel is there in so many ways. But I've never been to Tokyo. Well, I guess I've flown through. But don't you understand that there are neighborhoods in Tokyo that have never heard? You look at the next one and the next one and the next one, and you go down there. I've been to Manila 20 to 24 times in flying there and driving through there. And there are portions of Manila that have never, ever heard. We do ourselves a disservice when we say, I'm going to go be a missionary to, pick the country. But you'll never reach that country. you'll never reach that country. You can stay here and you can say, I'm going to be a witness right here in Winnipeg, and I'm going to reach Winnipeg for Jesus. I'm sorry, you won't do it. You say, well, yeah, but I'm going to reach my suburb for Jesus. You won't do it. You can't do it. It's impossible for you to do it. I'm going to reach my neighborhood for Jesus. You can't do it. Just can't do it. I'm going to reach people on my street. I'm going to reach my whole block for Jesus. Maybe. I'm going to reach my next door neighbor. I'm going to reach the FedEx man. I'm going to reach the grocery store person. I'm going to reach the person that I work with for Jesus. You might do that. But none of us are going to reach an entire city. It'd be great, it'd be wonderful. But if God calls you to be a missionary, realize that there are people there that you will reach that I will never reach, that I will never know. And God has given you the opportunity to be there with them. So what can you do? You can do two things. You can either take a job or you can make a job. When you take a job is when you leave here as a missionary and you go there to that location and you take a job. And that job may be repairing computers. That job may be woodworking. That job may be all kinds of things. And you take a job with a foreign employer and you work there and you use that as an opportunity. You say, well, is that good? Yes, that's good, because it may be a country that does not allow somebody to come in any other way. And then there's the second one, and the second one is you make a job. You start your own company. We have a country where our missionaries were working, and the government changed all of the rules. Now, governments are good about doing that, right? And they changed all of the rules. And so what happened in this country was that you could no longer go in as a missionary or on a religious visa, a religious worker visa. So you had to have a job. So some of our missionaries became counselors. Some of them became providing jobs, looking for job opportunity, job placement, I'll get the word right. Some of them started coffee shops and some of them started restaurants. And they were able to stay. They made new jobs for that opportunity. So you can be a salesman, a woodworker, agriculture, student, teacher, a printer, teaching English as a second language. You can be a sports trainer, a hiking guide. We have a missionary in Europe. He's a hiking guide. You say, that's a missionary? That's what he does. People come in and they hire him and they spend a week with him hiking through the mountains, and he witnesses to them and talks about his faith to them. And many times they accept Christ as Savior. And he follows up on them. And he does it all across. It's amazing what he's doing. Sports coaching, medical, management, counseling, accounting, restaurant, IT professionals, import, export, engineering. We had a guy who worked with tomatoes. And he figured out a way to pick tomatoes without bruising them. I go to the grocery store, I bruise them. So I don't know how he did that, but all kinds of opportunities. Missions is the greatest entrepreneurial opportunity in the world. The greatest by far. I read you earlier all the things that God's allowed me to do. It's been a business. But God has been the center of all that I've done. And as a missionary, you can do all of these things as well. This is the whole aspect of what it's involved in being an entrepreneur. You have to have location and startup funds, and you have to have a leadership structure and a vision, a goal, and market research, and all of these things. As missionaries, we do all of these things in order to form government or to form ministry. So the opportunities are definitely there. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, I'm going to come down to verse 12. If anyone builds on this foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will become clear on the day it will declare it, because it will be revealed by fire. Here's what I want you to realize. It's good. You hear this passage preached, and it's gold, silver, precious stones. But you know what? Got it. But you know what? What's interesting about this? Straw, stubble, is what you toss in the barn. I don't want to be crude. To pick up the poop and soak up the pee. You feed straw to the animal. But what about wood? Wood has value. Wood has purpose. There's a guy who is an architect, and he figured out that you could actually make the Empire State Building out of wood. I don't know why you would, but he figured out that you could. There's a hotel in Europe that is 15 stories tall, made completely out of wood. Up until a couple of years ago, the largest airplane ever to fly, the Spruce Goose, was made out of spruce, wood. You can buy sunglasses made out of wood. You can buy a bicycle made out of wood. You can do all things with wood. And you know what? Wood is going to be where the majority of you build your kingdom, is out of wood. And one day you'll stand before God and you'll watch it all burn down. Give your life to God and serve Him in a way that honors Him completely with all that you have. Sow everything that you have for a purpose so that others will find Christ in all that you do. We're here. Develop what God has given to you. There we go. Develop what God has given to you. Use what God has given to you. And then share what God has given to you. Go through there and use what God has given. One more thing. You ready? The time is now. The task is at hand. The world has a great need across every land. The opportunity is there, so what will you do? The Master just might be calling for you. But Lord, I have so little. I'm sure that you see, little is much when together it is you and me. Give up what you have and watch it multiply. A small lunch was greatly used once. You can't deny. It'll get there. So I surrendered my will and presented what I had. There was peace in my decision. I was truly glad to have the opportunity to serve my Savior and Lord, willingly saying yes, as He should not be ignored. If Jesus took 5 loaves and small fishes numbering 2, what makes you think that He cannot use even you? It is not what you sacrifice or put into His hands. It's what He does through you to accomplish His plans. Folks, I hope that you will allow God to use you. I hope that you will use the talents and gifts and abilities that you have. And I pray that God will use you to advance His kingdom greatly and mightily in the years to come. I have 1 minute. I have 1 minute. Are there any questions? Any at all? Jack, can you come up with just one? Ah, yes, thank you. I like her.
I was in like another session earlier, and they were mentioning like in the past 30 years, there's been like globalization, but then since the COVID pandemic, there's been like deglobalization, and how that has like negatively impacted businesses' missions. And I was just curious what your perspective was on that.
No, I understand it. From what we do, we are seeing greater increase in business as mission. It used to be in missions we talked about you would go through an open door. And business as mission is walking around the house and crawling through a kitchen window that happens to be left open. And so we're finding more opportunities. Those of you who are Gen Z, 26, 25 years of age and younger, you've got a particular drive to you that makes business as missions in one form or another a great opportunity. Some say as great as back, sorry, those of you who are millennials and Gen X and the others, going back to boomers, okay? I don't know if that's the case or not. But I would say that the opportunities are greater today, particularly considering the way that the world is in general. So, long answer to your long question. Anything else, right quick? Yes, sir.
Just a question here. In any of your contemplations or advisories, do you have any that would prepare a person for artificial intelligence?
Prepare people for what?
Artificial intelligence.
Oh.
And the impact it's going to have on their future.
Artificial intelligence has just in the last 3 months, I'll say, 4 or 5 months, really taken the media. So no, we don't have anything as of right now, but it will probably, as far as business as mission, it will probably be people themselves who do that from an employment standpoint, or an occupation aspect, where we'll get involved. But as far as we ourselves, probably not for a while.
Yeah, I'd like to see it in planning, preparation, education,
Yep.
just as preparation.
We'll hire you. Yes, sir. Last one. Stand by. I took my hearing aids out, but that's another story. Go ahead. My name's Frank.
Thaddy.
Okay, Thaddy.
So I'm just thinking that the jobs offered that are coming up, they all offer this neutral environment that they try to emphasize, where everything's acceptable and everything like that. So my idea is like, is it possible for me to just go in there and say, hey everyone, why don't we all turn to Christ there? I feel like I might just get fired there the next day.
No, you won't get fired. You just won't get hired. You know, there's no such thing as totally acceptable, okay? But with some guidance, you can get into a situation like that, and people have conversations. Even in closed countries where people are involved in working side by side, people ask questions. And so those things do come up. And so there are opportunities from that aspect. So, okay, very good. Yes, ma'am, thank you.
So much for sharing that and for really explaining to me and for the rest of us the difference between business as missions, tent making, marketplace ministry. I really appreciated that. So this is the last breakout session for the day. I hope you've enjoyed it as I have. If you want prayer for something, whether it's something you want prayer for God, if he's speaking to you regarding discerning ministry or a call, the Freedom in Christ people, which is just outside the sanctuary, their table, they would love to pray with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your time.
I do. There you go. There you go. Good. Good.
currently learning theology. Bible college is
Where at?
Miller.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Were you at, let me take this off.
You got our location.
I do. Thank you.